Everyone, welcome to the can.
Akash, top five. Tell me.
All right, so I think my first pick, I'm gonna say Chet Holmgren to the Magic. The top number two, I'll say Jabari Smith. Number three, I'll say Paolo. Number four, Jaden Ivey. Number five, Keegan Murray. What do you think about that?
Honestly, I think you're spot on. I would just switch with Jabari Smith and Chet Holmgren. I don't think Chet's going number one. I think Jabari's going number one.
Why do you say that?
I just think that he would be a better fit in Oklahoma, and kind of Orlando already has their eyes on Jabari Smith. I did some research before coming here, and they've had the max and workouts with him, and they see he has kind of like a fit to be with them. I could see your argument with Chet because Orlando's known, except for like Shaq and Dwight and all those players, Orlando kind of recently known to kind of draft point guards and not very good point guards, kind of bustful point guards. So I think that's a situation right now.
That's fair, but what can you say about the relationship between Jalen Suggs and Chet Holmgren?
They do go back to the private high school they went in Minnesota, and I think chemistry. I think you talked about this on last thing. Chemistry is a big deal, but that's like the only thing that's kind of like far fetched. Like if they played in college, that would be a different story. But high school chemistry, which is NBA chemistry, it's kind of like comparing apples to oranges. Wouldn't you agree?
I think I would agree to so the reason why I wouldn't so I think that chemistry is important at any stage. I think if you have two people that have played together as long as they have and that have the relationship that they do have, um, they both sort of went to the same college. I know that Chet's a little bit younger, but at the same time, like they've had that time to build chemistry that most people won't have right away. Right. So I think that's good, coupled by the fact that he's already a I think a lock for a top two draft
Oh,
pick,
absolutely, absolutely.
right? It sort of pushes them above. And it's also, I feel like if anyone has more upside, I feel like it's Chet, right? Do we both agree that Paolo's probably going third?
Yes, I do. I kind of want to back to your point about the chemistry thing. So, would you say that D'Angelo Russell and Ben Simmons would work well on a team because they both played in high school together?
Yo, Brick Simmons, let's get it. All right. Um, so actually, I don't really know what they achieved together. I do know that Mount Verde
Oh, they went
Academy.
undefeated.
Okay, so I do think that if they had been drafted together on the same team, their immediate chemistry would be a lot stronger than had they been drafted on different teams. I think that if you because who got drafted for it was D'Angelo Russell got drafted first, right? He was 2015.
Second pick.
Yeah, I know, but he was 2015.
Yeah, and Benjamin Simmons was 2016.
Benjamin Simmons, let's go. Um, so our perennial rookie of the year candidate. I do think that if he'd been drafted to the Lakers, with D'Angelo Russell, I feel like that team would have immediately had more success had they been drafted separately. Now, there's no way to say that a few years down the line, right, that it would have been a very successful team, right? But I think that they would have had a foundation going into it. Now, both those players, we kind of know their personalities a little bit.
Yeah, big
We
divas of the NBA.
sorry.
Big divas of the NBA for sure.
Oh, for sure, especially Ben Simmons. But because of their attitudes alone, I'm not really sure. I do feel like Chet and Jalen Suggs have personalities, right, that are a little bit more suitable for the NBA, right? And
I mean, that's hindsight's 2020. Like you could have said the same thing about Ben Simmons, like at LCU. I thought I thought he was gonna I thought his attitude was amazing. Like when he first got drafted, I thought I was like, oh, like this guy seems really humble, seems very down to earth. He seems like a big team player. Oh, how wrong was I? But but at the same time, besides that, I think when a player is drafted to the NBA from college, I think everything becomes a clean slate except for their skills and what they do on the court, like the endorsements, like the chemistry, that stuff is built. You know what I mean? Like in the NBA, it's one of the most adaptable, one of the most like you have to like change yourself if you want to fit in. You know, you have to do the bitch work. you have to kind of grow. It's a whole different environment. Like all these kids, like we see bench players in the NBA, they were kings in high school. Pat Bev averages like 35 points in high school. All these guys are amazing in college too. Otherwise, they wouldn't be in this league. So they have to start at the bottom of the hierarchy and kind of grow themselves up. And a lot of that is built, the chemistry is built through that growth and through that kind of realization. It's like, okay, like I was amazing here. I was amazing here. I have to relearn all this stuff again and kind of grow and kind of climb those ladders if I want to be a top player in this league.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a really good point that you made. Now, sort of a different question, right? I remember when all the Ben Simmons stuff was going down.
I remember
Um,
it too.
yeah, but one thing that someone said was that we should be giving Ben Simmons a little bit more slack because he was a top draft pick that was thrown into a situation where he had to be the second best player on a playoff team. And he essentially did a much better job than someone else would have done, right?
Okay, I completely disagree with that. Like, I mean, not with what you said, but like whoever said that. Okay, I know this is like a once in a lifetime kind of player, but let's take LeBron for a second. Straight out of high school, had to carry a sorry ass team, and then we already know what happens next. So I don't agree with that aspect. But one thing I do sympathize with Ben Simmons is like I heard he had some like mental health issues, and I think like a lot of athletes like DeMar DeRozan, Kevin Love, athletes from other sports are really speaking out about this. I don't know what he was dealing with. Maybe he was dealing with something serious, something that really kind of like didn't like allow him to like kind of play at his potential, didn't really allow him to like communicate those like feelings and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So if we're going on the basis of that, yes, I sympathize with him 100%. But saying that you're the number one pick, you can be thrown in any environment. You can go be a bench player. You know what I mean? You can be a starter and be expected to be a star and produce right away. It's just that's why it's such a quick environment. That's the reason these guys get paid millions of dollars for that reason because you have to do that. Otherwise, like just don't be in this league.
Yeah, I know, but you can let's look at every like the most let's look at the past first round picks,
Wait,
right?
don't fucking say Anthony Bennett.
We're not.
Okay, I just want to say that out loud. Don't say his name.
Yeah, so we'll start with the most recent year,
Okay.
right? Cade Cunningham.
Yes.
So he started out his year horribly,
Yeah.
right? Shooting
He was
probably
also dealing with injuries though.
he was, but almost right off the bat, he had historically one of the worst 3-point percentages to start out a year.
That's the Pistons culture, baby.
Let's go Pistons culture. Um, but he followed that up, right? Drastically improving in the middle of the season,
Yeah.
sort of improving their record, but
Yeah.
once again, the Pistons ended up being a bottom of the standings team as they were for the past few years.
Yeah.
We look at the year prior to that, right? Anthony Edwards. So the Timberwolves, once again, he's thrown in a situation where you had D'Angelo Russell, decent player, Karl Anthony Towns. I don't know if you disagree with me here. I think he's a top 3 center in the NBA,
100%.
right? And he didn't have the kind of impact Ben Simmons did. They still were a bottom of the standings team. 2019, Zion Williamson, right? Considered a generational talent.
Next LeBron. Yeah.
Yeah, on the same level as LeBron James. But his team, just like they were the year prior to that, bottom of the standings team. So each year we see, even the year before that, it was DeAndre Ayton, but DeAndre Ayton was on a team that was bad until Chris Paul got there.
Can I ask you a question real quick?
Yeah.
So what are the three top one picks can you just repeat their names? So you talked about Anthony Edwards, talked about Zion Williamson. Who was the other one?
Cade Cunningham.
Cade Cunningham, right. What's one thing that's similar with all these three teams?
They were all bad.
Okay, except for that. Would you agree that they're medium to small market teams?
That is true. They are. They're all small market teams.
Would you think because of the amount of resources and the marketing opportunities these teams get, you think that might be part of the problem? Because not everyone can be LeBron and take a team like like a city like Cleveland and like make it $1 billion asset. So what's your like your opinion, your perspective like on like how small market and medium market teams like kind of like grow their players?
Well, I mean, they all did the right thing. They all got the coveted first overall pick, right? And they all did their job in drafting the best player that they could.
Yeah.
right? I would say that in all three of the years, I don't know if you disagree with um the John Morant over Zion Williamson. Who would you pick? It was Ja or Zion Williamson?
It depends when you ask me. Is this
Like a
draft night
fully
or
a
right
full no,
now?
like a fully healthy Zion, right? Not overweight, not dealing with the injuries that he is right now. Let's say if you had a fully healthy Zion and a fully healthy Jaw, do you think that the Grizzlies made do you think the Pelicans made the right decision choosing Zion over Jaw?
See, that kind of question works like hypothetically in dream world, but you can't really ask me something like that now. Now, if you ask me on draft night, who are you picking? Like number one pick, 2019, John Morant or Zion Williamson? Look, Ja was unheard of before college. You know, what I mean, I heard some like scouter like literally watched him like in like a gym or something balling
Yeah,
out.
the
Yeah, you
auxiliary
heard about
gym.
that, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's crazy, man.
Yeah,
For
he literally found out
yeah,
about him
yeah.
because he was buying chips and soda. Like,
Dude, I mean, like, dude, like luck works, luck and destiny works in different days for
mhm.
different ways. So good for him. Dude, Zion was something else, dude. High school, him and Duke, high school. Holy fuck, dude. I
Yeah,
sometimes I watch those highlights. I'm like, dude, how is this? How is this kid real? How is he our age? First of all, like, look at us, look at
yeah.
him, and how is he doing what he's doing? So draft like 100% Zion, but like, dude, in like a stint of 3 years, this kid, John Morant, he has been an all-star starter. Which, I mean, Zion has been an all-star too. He has been rookie of the year. And you could argue again about Zion being healthy or not. Like that was kind of the reasons that he was like he won the award. And then he also won. I know you were going to disagree with me because you thought Jordan Poole should be. That's what you thought, right? Should be most improved player. Is that what you're
Wait,
going
what
for
year? This year?
this year? Yeah,
Oh, wait, who won it again?
John Morant.
John Morant deserved it.
You think he deserved it?
John Morant deserved it. I do think Jordan Poole wasn't even a candidate, right?
No, he was. He was him or John Morant. Those are the top two.
Well, who are the three?
The third one, don't remember who's number three. I've I don't know, but it's like it's on the tip of my
I don't
tongue.
know.
So,
People
yeah.
were like saying that John Morant should not be in the most improved discussion because he should be in the MVP discussion,
Yeah,
right?
that's what Draymond Green said.
But what I'll say is that I think we give credit to a lot of sort of poor, like not like players that have not been playing so well, right? That have drastic turnarounds and do great. I think with John Morant, we are sort of rewarding him from going from being that young star to being that superstar talent player, right? Someone that at a very young age carried a team to a second seed, only falling to probably one of the greatest teams in our current era.
Greatest dynasties, I want to say.
Yeah, I mean they're the closest thing to what the Spurs were, and I think they're better than the Spurs, right? I think
Absolutely.
when it's all said and done, I know you don't like this, but
I don't like it, but I agree with it.
I think that they could win at least two more championships.
Okay. Now since we're talking about dynasties, I want to ask one of the questions that's been like asked throughout, like about it. Who's winning a 7 game series? The 1995, 1996 Chicago Bulls or the 2016-2017 Golden State Warriors?
Let's revive this debate.
Let's revive it. Let's
Let's
revive it.
revive this debate. All right. So what I'm first going to ask you about, what do you think is one of the most important skills for a championship team? And who do you think has more of it?
Before I even want to ask you that, do you think it matters what the refing rule is in this series? Are we doing 90s rules or are we doing like
Answer
2000
my
rules?
question, sir.
Okay. What's the most important aspect of a championship team?
Yes, sir.
I would say number one over everything is chemistry. And one team that really reminds me of that is the 2004 Detroit Pistons.
Okay, but if you were to pick like a certain metric, right? Whether like it could be as simple as free throw percentage, it could be offensive rebound, defensive rebounds, it could be your mid range, 3-point shooting, overall field goal percentage, defense, right? Certain defensive things.
Then the most important metric, undebatably, is shots attempted to the shots made ratio. That's it.
You hear that, guys? The most important thing to winning is who has more points.
Who has more
Let's
points?
go.
And obviously like that's the offensive aspect. To the defensive aspect is like how much you held them to, you know. So kind of works like 50-50 on that one. What do you think? Is that, do you agree with that, or do you think something else is more important?
I do think that looking at who scores more points and comparing that between two different eras, like it seems like a very valid point to make,
Yeah,
but scoring points was different in different eras,
that's true. But
right?
at the end of the day, three
I do
points is
think
still worth
that
more than 2 points.
I do think that can we agree that Michael Jordan would be the best player in the series? Do not say Kevin Durant's better than Michael Jordan. Do not say Steph Curry's better than Michael Jordan.
I mean, I don't think they're
Look, I
better,
know. Look, we've both agreed
but
that
the only
we
thing is
pick
like,
LeBron over Michael
yeah,
Jordan.
okay. No, you're right. I think Michael Jordan would be the best player in the series, but there's a but here. I think there are a player or two who might have bigger impact in this series itself. That makes sense for the
Okay.
respective teams.
Okay. So the next question, first of all, who are those two players?
Kind of already named them, but I want to say Steph Curry and Kevin Durant.
All right, that's fair. Okay. Next thing I'll ask you, which is a better defensive team?
Oh, on Chicago Bulls for sure.
All right. Who is the better coach?
They still had Phil. Yeah, they still had Phil, and then oh, I mean, Steve Kerr played for Phil Jackson, so I want to say Phil Jackson.
All right.
Wait. In this series, is Steve Kerr both playing and coaching?
That's fair, actually. That's
Bro,
fair. Yo, imagine, I'm just saying, dream scenario. Steve Kerr hits the game winner over Steve Kerr.
dude, that'd be crazy. That would be crazy, dude. I would go nuts.
That
We gotta relive this in 2K, dude.
yo. That'd be wild. All right, but we say the Bulls have the better coaching, they have the better defense, they have the better player, right? And then we can make individual comparisons. Who do you think is better? Dennis
So
Rodman
are
or
we just comparing starting lineups right now?
well, I feel like we've looked at the main things, right? Who okay, so I'd say the better offense,
Golden State.
probably Golden
Yeah.
State, right? So it really comes down to a great defense and a pretty good offense versus a pretty good defense and an exceptional offense, right?
Yeah.
And so now you're kind of evenly matched there. We know who's the better coach. And that really comes down to individual matchups, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go with the big ones, right? Like Dennis Rodman,
Yeah. No, Dennis Rodman.
right? Do you compare? I would say the equivalent of Dennis Rodman on the Warriors is
Draymond Green.
okay. So between those two, who do you think wins that duel?
I mean, obviously, like you're gonna say Dennis Rodman, but like he also like I don't. He was kind of a diva, like too. Like he would score like 0 points one game and have like 50 rebounds. Like it's insane. And Draymond's like a lot more pathetic than that. Like I agree, but like
That's fair.
Draymond, I
Hit
don't
me up
know.
with that triple single. Let's go.
I don't know, but like his impact on the game is just like so much more. As much as we like to hate on him, like I'm just gonna say his impact on the game is so much more than like just a stat line.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the way he like I've seen him like videos of him kind of like mentoring younger players. Kind of like he's the best talk, like, not trash. He's like the best talker when it comes to his team. He's kind of like that Marcus Smart. He's that vocal leader on that team. You know what I mean? Kind of like organizes the offense, kind of organizes the defense. If like someone's not doing what they're supposed to be doing, he just yells at them. Like I've seen like him like yelling at Clay's like, bro, like guard that player. Clay's like, oh shit, might be. But you know, like that's just how it goes. So definitely like Dennis Rodman's a better player, but like Draymond, I don't want to sell Draymond Green short. And then for like everything else, you know, like who was the starting point guard on the? I don't even remember.
Was it not? Was Pippen was a point forward? I know that.
He was a small forward.
That's fact. I actually don't know who the starting point guard was on
I
that
don't
team.
remember what it. Well, I mean, he's not going to compare to Steph Curry. We already know that.
That's
And
facts.
then MJ obviously takes that. Okay, this is the big one. I know who the better player is, but like these two players, their strengths are different. So I want you to kind of analyze them and break it down for me. Scottie Pippen and Kevin Durant.
What the fuck? What kind of comparison is that?
I mean, it's kind of like a defensive strong set of skills versus an offensive.
Defensive. Okay, so
Because you would say Scottie Pippen's a better defensive player than Kevin Durant, right?
actually I don't know why. So they're both great players. They're both going into the well. Scottie Pippen's already in the Hall of Fame, right?
Yeah,
Kevin Durant will be in the Hall of Fame.
yeah.
Um, but you're looking at a secondary role play, not a role player, but someone that's in the secondary role, right? I would say that a better comparison would have been like Scottie Pippen to Clay Thompson, right?
Like, I don't know. They like, how do you compare those two players? Like they,
Once again, look, I told you, like the skill set of these different teams is the way they do things is so different,
yeah,
right? I heard I'm gonna get back to it because I don't want to change the topic.
yeah,
But I'm just gonna talk about one thing real quick before I get back to it.
okay,
Um, I forget someone on one of those shows, right, made this comparison where they were saying that, the old way basketball was played was you had guys like Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, right, who they basically were the entire identity of a team. They took the crazy shots. They were the basketball gods. They took a lot of isolation baskets. They would score 40, 50 points, and they were the main thing there. Basically, they were the entire offense, right?
yeah,
But the way the Warriors have been winning, right, is yeah, Steph Curry is the best player on that team. But what makes him and Thompson so great and that whole team so great is everyone's an off ball player. Steph Curry's the guy with the final shot, but he's far from that same kind of diva that Michael Jordan was.
yeah.
But in that, so you can't make a direct comparison in every way. But the person that's played that secondary role, that when the primary scorer isn't necessarily doing what they need to do, Klay Thompson stepped in, right? In a way, Scottie Pippen doesn't play the same way, right? He took that secondary role. I don't think for a single year, maybe one year somewhere in basketball reference, you got to
I mean,
find it.
he was kind of the primary deal when MJ
He,
retired.
so he, yeah, but before, while they were playing together, their championship years, right? The years that we're making comparisons for, um, he never really scored over 20 points per game. I think there's very few seasons he did, and most of his time he was playing a sort of secondary role, whether that was facilitating. He was a great defender, playing, and he was a great player, arguably a top five player in the NBA in his time, but he didn't score over 20 points because of that secondary role. He played really good in that role. Klay Thompson, in the same way, I would argue that he could average well over the points that he's averaged. I think he averages like typically between 22 to 24 points per
Yeah,
game a
but I mean,
year.
like scoring is kind of risky, and I kind of want to like ask you a question because you actually like I loved your analysis on that. So you both said that like like both these players, they're like I mean like, okay, let's start with Scottie Pippen. You said he's not like a first option in terms of scoring. Well, let's say no, pretend he wasn't on the Bulls, he was on some other team. Do you think he could be the primary option on a winning team, like for scoring wise, not like leaving the team wise?
Um, that's true. I'm not really sure, and I think we've seen in the past like he was on the Blazers for a little bit.
And the
And he
Rockets,
was actually on the Bulls as a first option for a little bit.
yeah.
And the teams did fine. They didn't make the same kind of impact.
I mean, they won 55 games like
Yeah,
right after
exactly.
Jordan
And
left.
but even in those years, he wasn't like us, like the type of scorer Michael Jordan
No,
was, right? And
almost no one was this guy.
yeah, I mean, he wasn't like averaging 38 points per game. I think that was the highest Michael Jordan ever averaged. But I
Yeah, I
mean,
mean, Michael Jordan's career high was 69 points, so like
he
you
he
gotta give
he
him
he
some.
was a primary option and he did fine. But are we talking about the standard of success is winning a championship?
I mean, that's the ultimate goal. So I would say that's yeah.
Because I don't think alone being the primary option, he can win a championship.
I agree with that. I just wanted to see what your thoughts were. Like
Mm-hmm.
you like on any team, like screw the Chicago Bulls for a second. Like put him on like the Knicks, like after Ewing, put him on the Knicks. What's happening?
Well, the Knicks will give Evan Fournier a max if they needed to. So I don't really, I don't really think that putting him on the Knicks
Okay, when they were more functional, I know they're dysfunctional as fuck now. When they were more for like a
with
functional,
Patrick Ewing.
like with just
No, actually,
no Patrick Ewing. He is the primary option here. No Patrick Ewing.
oh,
Yeah, because the Knicks are still like a decent team. You know what I mean?
I think yeah, but once again, I don't know if you know Scottie Pippen's story, right? He when he was younger,
Yeah, I
first
mean,
of
I
all,
watched the documentary about.
no, dog, they just sort of like pulled him out of the dirt.
Yeah,
Literally
like
was
he had the
like was
most
like
southern accent ever.
dude was
Scotty
like
Pippen.
no, he was like the team manager
Yeah,
and he would just like shoot hoops with them. and they picked him up, and then he decided to grow 5 feet.
5.
Yeah, and so he started out as a guard, right? And so suddenly he grew from like
Yeah, he went from like what, like 6'2" to like 6'9" or something.
yeah, in college that too, like his
Yeah.
second year of college, not even his
I wish
first.
I had that.
Yeah,
That's
dude, I
fucking
need
crazy.
some milk,
I
but
need some,
yeah,
that dude, bro.
yeah, but that's my point. Is he was such a good facilitator. I feel like that almost fits his role. It's
Yeah.
like would Chris Paul as a primary, yeah, actually good. Yeah, would Chris Paul as a primary option win a championship?
Yeah, I do think he
Okay,
is.
who would Chris Paul as a third option win a championship?
I mean, I think if Chris Paul has the right assets with him, he can definitely be the first option. I mean, I don't know anymore because he's kind of old as fuck. But like when
That's
he was like
true.
young, I mean, he was doing good with that Pelican, or was it Pelicans still, or was it the Hornets? It was the Hornets, right? When he was on it.
I mean, he does well with almost every team that
Yeah.
he's on. He just, for whatever reasons, like likes blowing 2-0 leads.
Or did you see that meme? There,
Uh,
were, there was like a meme that Chris Paul was saying that, dude, I'm like, after you went into the finals, right? Like last year, he was like, dude, I'm like, now I'm in the finals. It's like an addictive experience. And then he lost. He's like, thank God Chris Paul
Got
lost
over
his
his
addiction.
addiction.
Yeah.
Let's go. Okay, but getting back to the point that you were saying, I don't feel like alone he could, without the pieces that he needs, can win a
Well, no
championship.
one, no one can win without
But
pieces.
remember, you said if let's say Patrick Ewing was on the team,
Yeah.
remember Patrick Ewing got bounced by Michael Jordan in the Bulls,
Yeah.
and Scottie Pippen was on the Bulls,
Yeah.
right? But do you think that Scottie Pippen was paired with Patrick Ewing, an all-time great player, all-time great?
Well, to kind of like play devil's advocate here, Michael Jordan has never won a championship without Scottie Pippen. It's like, what do you feel about that?
Facts. He did actually say that he would never have a championship without Scottie
Yeah.
Pippen.
Did you hear about it?
Paraphrasing.
Apparently when the Bulls organization, they were contemplating of trading Scottie Pippen for Tracy, like a young Tracy McGrady. And Michael Jordan's exact words were like, if you do this, I'm gonna retire for the 9th time. So don't do it.
Dude would probably retire regardless.
Yeah.
Dude threatened to retire so many times, and he
Yeah.
actually did,
Yeah.
which I think is wild. But I mean, it just goes to show like how much he valued him. What do you think about Scottie Pippen going to war with Michael Jordan after the whole documentary?
I mean, I'm not gonna lie, dude. Like, it takes a group of people to win a championship. And when I was watching The Last Dance, I only had one thing that happened. My appreciation for Michael Jordan like grew significantly. And like, but as I started watching more episodes, I just saw like every single player there was sucking his dick. They're like, oh yeah, Michael Jordan's our god. So when that happens, like I could see Scottie Pippen's like perspective because bro, he was a top 5 player. He was on the Olympics team. He had so much value. Yes, granted, he wasn't the first option; he was the second option, but he added so much value to that team, and they couldn't have won those championships without it. So like, kind of like putting all the spotlight on one player, and this player could be the greatest player of all time. But like, still, dude, like I feel like I don't know, they didn't really value him, or they didn't show him as good as he was. Because you remember the episode when they were like, okay, like this European player should take the final shot, and then like
Yeah, I was
Scottie
actually
Pippen
gonna ask you
took
about
a
that.
tantrum like from that,
Yeah,
and then he's like,
Tuni
I'm not gonna win the
Kukoc.
game anymore. Yeah, yeah, Kukoc. Yeah. So like, I don't know, dude. Like because that's in one moment, like in life we always have like these frustrations that we don't want to deal with, and if you like kind of use that as a highlight reel to kind of like use that for like our entire life, like do you think that's fair?
That's not fair.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that that's a very fair assessment, and I was actually gonna ask you about that
Yeah.
too.
What's
Um,
what's your like what's your assessment of the whole situation that happened that went down?
I mean, personally, I felt like this was Michael Jordan's documentary,
Yeah.
right? And I mean,
So you don't think it was like a Chicago
well, it's
Bulls
gonna be
documentary?
biased. It was his. I mean,
Yeah.
as much as it was sure like the '96 Bulls. One thing that I actually gathered from it, right, was that Michael Jordan as a player was very good, but obviously the '96 Bulls were a very great team. And that Michael Jordan's impact on like pop culture, just as much of basketball, was like
Like
legendary.
like when you went to like France, remember that? Like everyone was
Yeah,
just like,
like
yeah,
I think that
yeah,
was the big thing was like it wasn't like just that he was a great player. I mean, he was a great player, right? But more so he was just this generational sort of talent that just changed everything about how basketball was viewed by people.
yeah, for sure.
Right? He was that bridge between what was the old NBA versus what we know it is today, right? Like he made Nike relevant,
Yeah.
He made a lot of new basketball, made basketball more of an internationally enjoyed sport.
Yeah.
Um,
He was an overall icon.
yeah,
For
and
sure.
and so you saw like one of the cool things that they did in that documentary, right, was that they brought in, people like, Obama, like Seinfeld, like all kinds of a weird mix of people, but they were all somehow affected by him, right?
Yeah.
But more importantly,
They even
that
brought Kobe, right? I think.
they did
Yeah,
have
yeah,
Kobe,
yeah.
but I think, what was interesting with the whole thing was that it really did center around Michael Jordan. And I felt like he gave credit to Scottie Pippen. I didn't like that scene. Like maybe he could have removed the scene, but
Yeah.
outside of that scene, I
He
mean,
did.
Michael Jordan was the best player on that
When he
team.
was talking about Scotty, he definitely
Yeah.
praised him.
And they had, an episode for Scotty. They had an episode for Dennis Rodman. I do feel like maybe
He
it
even
could
had
have
an
been
episode
better.
with Steve Kerr, bro.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but then they still Scottie Pippen decided to go in public and just absolutely shame this man, right? And it's fair, but you're on his documentary.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe make your own documentary.
Scottie Pippen documentary, The Second Last Dance.
The dance.
The last Dennis Rodman's documentary.
The only dance.
Yo, can we take a moment to talk about Dennis Rodman in that documentary, bro? That shit was crazy. That shit was crazy, bro. That shit was crazy, bro.
I think it's in. Can you imagine an athlete doing those sort of things now?
They would get crucified by the media.
I think who do you think? Obviously, it's
Like
a lot
in
more
the current
water.
NBA, like who would do
Who
something like
would be
that?
the most like current date? Who do you think is the most like Dennis Rodman in the current
J.R.
era?
Smith.
J.R.
Henny
Smith?
Smith. Henny Smith. I know he's not in the NBA anymore, but like that's what he reminds me of. Henny Smith.
Why?
Dude, I don't know. Okay. I was watching an interview of J.R. Smith. And he was just like, J.R., like, what did you like do like in your early years? Like, how did you like, like how did you become financially stable? Like, how did you like utilize your money? Where did you allocate to? And he's like, bro, I don't know none of that shit, bro. Like, all I know is I used to go to a club, spend 60 grand a night, and just go home. But like this was like more, and then they kind of like had another interview which is like more modern, and then like they kind of showed that clip of like what he said, and he was like, "That's one of my biggest mistakes in my early years is that I didn't like give back to my community. I wasn't financially responsible. Like I didn't like make my money work for me. Instead, I just blew it because I kept on making it. And now when I'm at the stage where I'm not making as much as money, like endorsement deals aren't really coming through. I kind of wish, I did more of that. And I think one thing I really want to ask you, like, what do you think about this? So like new NBA players, or like first year players, them taking like a financial like literacy class. Like, what do you think is a smart idea for like the NBA to like implement or something?
I think it's so important, right? And I think the first thing any NBA player should do, and I'm pretty sure they already do this,
Yeah,
but get some kind of financial manager that just,
like Jason Tatum's mom is his.
yeah,
That's what I've heard. Yeah,
yeah, just completely handles everything
yeah,
that you have, right? Because we've seen great players absolutely lose everything. Think about Allen Iverson.
yeah,
I don't know about you.
yeah.
Allen Iverson highlights help me digest food. Like they're just so
Yeah,
beautiful.
and dude, he said in one of his interviews that he would never bring clothes with him on road games because he would just buy clothes there. Like that's crazy.
Yeah. And I mean, that's one small thing, but the way he would spend on cars, on women, on basically anything, right?
It's basically the future of the NBA. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, he was one of the best point guards of all time. Not the best, but one of the best
shooting guard.
shooting guard.
Yeah,
That's true.
yeah.
He's actually, I keep forgetting that
That's
because,
so I mean, he played point guard for a lot too. So
yeah, that's true. But he carried a team, bunch of plumbers
against the Lakers to the
against the
finals.
Lakers, took it to a game 5,
Yeah,
right? Which is basically as well as he
you
would
made it
have
sound
done.
so. You made it sound so a game 5.
I mean, that was as far as he was gonna take it.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I mean, it was him and like a washed up Cookie Monster to Kevin Mutombo. So I mean, what else are you gonna expect from that team?
I
And he
don't know.
got them
Yeah,
that far
yeah,
versus Shaq and Kobe.
yeah, yeah.
Dude, I would
In their early
cry.
prime.
Check out our mix.
Oh yeah, we just
Shaq,
gotta. Oh
Shaq
wait.
mix.
Thank you for reminding me now, Akash. I have to ask something else. So there was a recent altercation, or like that's what the rumors were, that apparently there was a feud between Shaquille O'Neal and his eldest son. And his eldest son, who who has been dealing with heart issues and like has just been like very injurious like in his college times. He wants to go for the NBA draft, and that's what he's leaning towards. Shaq's mind is that I want you to spend another year at college. What's up happening with that?
So, can you tell me what were just
Just a
approximate?
little more details.
Yeah, no, but just no, because I already know what I'm going to say. I
Yeah.
just wanted to know what were Shareef O'Neal's stats and what's his history.
Okay. So you already, I mean, have you seen his high school highlights by any
I've seen
chance?
some of them. Yeah,
Would you say was pretty good? Like in
he
high
was
school.
decent.
Okay.
His highlights showed it at least.
So we get this kid, who's our age, who has great potential to be like, a college player, and even like, like go in the NBA. But life happens, and like injuries and other stuff sometimes succumb to your life, and that's exactly what unfortunately happened to Shareef O'Neal. He dealt with some like early on injuries that were mainly physical, and then he ended up having like full on heart surgery. I don't know the exact details or like the diagnosis was, but that obviously will derail anyone's athletic career. So he kind of went through all of that. Like had an amazing recovery. Good for him. But that does take a toll on your performance. All that time off. Like not like really being in that environment. So like I don't know what his rebounds and like other, but I know he averages like 2.9 that season, and he was barely getting any minutes. And now he wants to go in the NBA, which I think might be a little too hasty. But at the end of the day, it's his decision. And Shaq is his dad, so I kind of do agree with him here. Like kind of be patient. Your time will come, but you should go back to college and really prove yourself before you go to the NBA.
I agree, actually. I think that he's being very hasty with that decision. I think he should listen to his dad. But more importantly, he's got to have a more sort of realistic approach to this whole thing. I mean, making it into the NBA is not easy, even if your father is Shaq, right? What did we
Ask like the
see?
Michael Jordan sons. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, both of Michael Jordan's
yeah.
sons, neither of them were in the NBA. Gary Payton's son had to go through hell,
Oh, absolutely.
right? Absolute hell.
But he took it like a champ. That's
He
what I was gonna
did,
say. Yeah,
and just like he's a very gritty guy, right? And he bounced around contracts and finally got there,
yeah,
right? But even he had a lot of upside to show, and Shareef O'Neal, by making that decision, just shows that he might not be mature enough yet to understand just how difficult that whole thing is,
yeah,
right? And so, I mean, I don't know about. I mean, you just said it. I think that he should be waiting.
yeah. Why do you like? What do you think? Like because obviously like like Shareef has his own perception on everything. Like he knows that like he hasn't really proven himself. Like what do you think like the mental process of like making that decision is? Like why do you think he wants to go to the NBA right now? Except like maybe like wait maybe a year or maybe two to then go to the NBA. What do you think the reasoning behind all that is?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always difficult to sort of infer what someone else is thinking,
Yeah,
right? Especially something like someone like Shareef, but we know that his career might have been very different had he not had surgery,
yeah.
right? Which I think it was a heart surgery. I don't
No,
know.
it wasn't
Yeah.
archery. Yeah,
And so maybe in his mind, he sort of had this plan for himself that at this stage in his career, he'd be in a different place,
yeah,
right? I think that he would have been a much better player at this point had he not had issues that are very unfortunate,
yeah,
right? And so he felt sort of motivated to get into the draft as quick as possible. I think he was at UCLA first, transferred to LSU, his father's alma mater. And so he did everything he could to try to get back to the player he was. I just think it'll take time. I'm not saying he won't ever be in the NBA. I just think that he's going to have a slow, grueling process to get there.
yeah.
And I feel like he's going to go undrafted this year.
Feel the same way. Talking about undrafted players, one more very famous person's son that we were just talking about, Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen Jr. He he was a year below us, so I would say he's like a third year, right? Third year, or gonna be a senior. And he also kind of declared for the NBA draft. And like unlike Shareef, he went through that process. You know what I mean? I don't think he had a good rookie season at Vanderbilt, but like his sophomore and junior, they went to the March Madness tournament this year, and
Mhm.
he had an impressive, like, he was using 24 points.
Yeah,
20,
that's pretty
yeah,
good.
that's crazy. But
Especially at a place. I know Vanderbilt. I don't know their whole history, but I know
yeah,
they're a decent program.
they are a decent program. They're a good D1 program. They're not like the Kansas or like Kentucky's, but they're definitely a good program.
Mhm.
But at the same time, like all this, like everything is based on much on like kind of like speculation and scouting reports, except on at least on these early stages, that can always change, usually does. Why do you think the scouting reports are so negative about him becoming undrafted or not like being one of the 60 picks in this year's draft? What do you think the reason behind that is?
So unfortunately, I haven't followed his story that much. You did say he was a 4-year player, right?
He would have been a 4-year player if he stayed one more year in college. So three
Okay. Do
years,
you
yeah.
think that if he stayed another year, he would have had a better chance?
I don't think he could. I mean, like, this is the thing. Like, see, if you are in college for one year and have an amazing season, like you're gonna be like somewhere a lottery pick. If you stay in college for 3 years and you first of all you show the NBA, you're improving, you want to get better, you want to get NBA ready, and I respect that. But one thing which I've really noticed, like, is really important to NBA teams is your age. I mean, investing in someone who's 21 compared to someone who's 18 or 19, and the performance is identical. Like, who do you go with? You would go with the, like, 19-year-old kid,
Hmm.
because then you would have him for longer, hypothetically.
Hmm.
Now, at 21, it's not that old. So I would say maybe that's one of the reasons. Like, if you're not NBA ready at 19, maybe that's, quote unquote, turn off for some NBA teams. But I really feel like he has shown that he's willing to go through that, grueling process. You were talking with Shaq's son, how he doesn't want to go through it right now, but he went through it, dude. He went through it. He showed great amount of improvement, and I don't know. He should definitely not be a lottery pick. I wouldn't even say like the first round, but I definitely just think he deserves like a second round chance in the NBA.
Yeah. I mean, I remember at one point in a mock draft, he was the first round pick, right? Wasn't he projected to be a first round pick?
I mean, I haven't seen that mock. I mean, how late was it? Like, how late was it ago?
Must have been at least a few months ago,
A
maybe
few
3, 4.
months. I haven't seen that, so I can't really talk about that. But
Yeah.
he's not looking good right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think it must, I hope once again that people see the kind of talent that he is.
Yeah,
I know that he's a guard. I don't know how he plays defense or anything like
yeah.
that.
I know he's a decent offensive player though. I think
Yeah.
you
I
talked
mean,
about
if he's
that.
averaging 24, that's pretty good. But we've
Yeah,
always seen players that average those kinds of points and they get pushed to a later part of the draft, go undrafted, and then end up being very good.
yeah,
Right. We can look at, we have some undrafted players. One of your favorite, Fred Van Vliet,
yeah,
great undrafted player, basically the entire Miami Heat roster.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
We have
Unreal.
Gabe Vincent, um, Yut
Duncan Robinson
Seven or
was
whatever.
undrafted, right? Or was he?
Duncan Robinson was also
Yeah,
undrafted.
yeah, yeah.
Kendrick Nunn, who was good for a year.
And he's in the Lakers now too.
Yeah, I
So
mean
yeah,
he got injured, and
yeah,
even the few games that he played with the Lakers, he was pretty good.
yeah,
So it's all possible.
yeah. Anything's possible. This NBA is where amazing happens.
Yeah. But yeah, the other player I was actually thinking about too didn't actually go undrafted, but I don't know why. I've been seeing a lot of highlights of him.
Wait, who?
Gilbert Arenas, right?
Oh, that's
Who actually he was a first round draft
he
pick.
also you also pulled out a Glock in the locker room too.
That's very true.
Glock Arenas, that's his nickname.
Agent Zero also something else, but
Yeah, I remember
um, but we'll but he was originally predicted to be at the beginning of the first round. Um, had some you know issues answering questions correctly
yeah.
in an appropriate manner.
Yeah, but he's also like
Yeah,
running like a very successful podcast too
yeah,
now.
yeah. But because of that, he dropped to the second round. I think he was a 31st pick.
Yeah.
Went to the Warriors, and suddenly he was their first option for a couple seconds, and then they
Just a
tricked.
couple of seconds.
Yeah, they were. He was their first option for like a small
Yeah.
sliver of time where they weren't winning anything, surprisingly. And then, yeah, and then
Just going off on the Warriors right now.
yeah, but then the free agency right happened, and then he went to the Wizards, and they got smoked by LeBron, and then his old career sort of derailed from there. But
Yeah, it's like I know I never really like thought about like Gilbert's. I don't think his name's funny as Gilbert, but I've never really thought like about his career. But like it's pretty crazy. It was like a roller coaster for sure.
it was, and he
Yeah,
smiled through all of it.
he was
Shout out Gilbert
he
Arenas.
was a positive
If
individual.
you ever come on this podcast, God bless you.
It will definitely be online for particular reasons, but yeah, we would love you to join this place, talking to Ken.
We're gonna wrap this up.
Yeah.
But the last question I want to ask you is: we discussed at the very start of this cast
Okay.
top 5 players, right? Who were the top 5 draft picks. Who do you think is gonna win Rookie of the Year?
You're asking really good questions, Gosh. Uh, I don't know. Usually I have like it's so easy. Like except for like years like 1920, like sorry, 2019, where you're like, okay, Zion's winning Rookie of the Year, like no doubt. This year we have some really good candidates. Like my money right now, a very close number one is Powell. That's I just think I just there's something about him that I just think he's gonna succeed over everyone else. Like I don't think it's gonna be like very distant, but there's just something that like I feel like he has in his skill wise over everything else. Jabari Smith, phenomenal player. He definitely has a chance. Chet, yes. I don't think it's about which player's better right now because everyone's good and like talented in a unique way. And you can debate me on this if you want. I think it's mainly is who will fit better in their team, who will
Mm-hmm.
fit better in the system, who will have better chemistry than the rest. And I feel like whoever that player is, and I think we'll get kind of an image of that like the first like 10,
Mm-hmm.
15 games of like the next season. Whoever has that will win Rookie of the Year. That's my thing. Injuries and everything is also part.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I couldn't agree with you more. I think Paolo is the best player in this draft. I think he's the most NBA ready player in this draft, and I think that he'll fit the best, assuming he goes third. He'll fit the best in the Rockets. I think that they need another forward. They just lost Christian Wood.
Shout out Rudy.
Shout out Rudy. Come back on this cast at some point.
Yeah, that's how
Um,
you're saying.
but yeah, I think he's going to fit really well there. I'm curious to see how him and Jalen Green sort of coexist, especially, or even him and Kevin Porter Jr. He's also on that team.
Yeah. Oh, yeah,
Uh,
I keep forgetting that too.
yeah, and so they have a lot of great players there. Powell is
Sure.
just going to add to that, but I feel like of all the situations, right? Potentially, whether Chet goes to OKC or Orlando, Jabari goes to Orlando or OKC.
Yep.
Paolo on the Rockets has the potential to be that franchise player on that team,
Okay.
more so than the other 3, and I think he's going to look the best.
I like your answer. Hi guys, thank you. I just want to say I really appreciate all of you listening to our podcast. We're really trying to grow, and really just trying to talk about basketball. That's just something we truly love. And on next, what are we going to talk about next episode, Akash?
Next episode,
Is it post draft?
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit about the post draft.
Okay.
Hopefully, get some guests on here soon.
Yep.
If you want to be a guest,
Just
feel
let
free
me
to
know,
text me,
yeah.
DM me if we don't know you.
Yeah. We would love to like talk to you.
Absolutely. Please follow the Instagram.
We also, Akash has done a great job managing social media. We also have a Twitter, a TikTok, and we're also planning on starting a YouTube channel too. So definitely look out for those.
Absolutely. So thank you very much for tuning in.
Thank you.
We hope to see you all once again.